What's Austraffic's commitment to the AITPM?
Since we started the business, which when we also became a sponsor of the AITPM, including our staff as well, and been active on the committees over the decades.
So 41 years into business, has everything changed?
Technology has changed enormously, but not the key principles. Poor data means major stuff up. The latest technology is AI, and no matter how good your AI program is, you have to start with good data.
You're not alone in your thinking about this, are you? A lot of people see it as a big issue.
In 2020, a data research expert gave a TED talk. In summary, garbage in, garbage out.
Does history have any specific examples about the misunderstanding of machines and the data they need to produce accurate results?
In the early 19th century, Charles Babbage, the difference machine, the first computer, he was asked, if bad data goes in, do good answers come out? He was incredulous that people could think this way.
Are we more understanding now?
No. And an opinion based on a spurious information can now spread like wildfire and be repeated over and over again. If the data that's sitting out there on the internet is not proven to be ground truthful data, then what is the point of learning AI?
How can you make the point that AI may grab its data from anywhere?
If I asked AI to describe what a dinosaur looks like, would I want a reputable research or a Hollywood depiction or a children's toy? Even if it looks reasonable, what's the source information?
If AI might not be as discerning about where it gets its information from, what does that mean about the credibility of the results?
Who cares about the credibility of the data? The data doesn't have to be good to create pretty pictures.
Pretty pictures have been used to confirm preconceived ideas, but is there an example from other recent technologies where the potential was good, but we had to make sure that it was measuring exactly what we thought?
We did a big project on Bluetooth and OD surveys. Potential was good, but the devices were picking up false readings. It emphasises the need for reviewing data, cleaning it up to ensure it represents the real thing.
Cleaning up data, that can mean different things to different people.
Cleaning up data, David, is going through a file which comprises ones and zeros and actually testing it and actually checking the validation. And we have different dimensions against which we can test data, either the consistency of speed, a clean record, a record that has a spurious GPS coordinates attached to it. There's a range of filtering and validation tools by which to cleanse a data file. That doesn't mean making up data. It's identification of the outliers and either to harness and manage the outlier or to cull it. And therein lie an item that goes to the guts of with AI and the big data sets is knowing where are the outliers, where are the rubbish readings in amongst the big file.
We can all have a general feeling about the need for good data, but practical examples really do help. Have you got another one?
Digital travel time survey devices record GPS locations. We found by analysing the data that they can be affected on the run by buildings and general interference. This can skew the calculations of distance and speed. We cross-check it and get events that are off the digitised road network. We either spring them back onto the network or cull them because they could be creating a false, erroneous reading. There's a skill required to be able to go through and identify within a large data set the rubbish.
Here's a quote from the Financial Review back in 2020. Business and technology companies need to put infrastructure in place that doesn't just supply data, but also attest to the security and truthfulness of that data if data is truly going to be the currency of the new millennium. AI can pull together a wide amount of information, but then often the result is expressed as an average. You have a section on your website, anything but average. So can averaging be a big problem?
Too right it can. The classic case of the US Air Force in the 50s. They averaged the dimensions of all their pilots and built a one-size-fits-all cockpit.
And?
There was death and destruction.
Perhaps they're not quite as catastrophic, but is there an example in the traffic field?
Mapping companies might give average speeds. This combines together through traffic, left turn vehicles waiting for pedestrian, right turn vehicles waiting for an arrow. The average represents none of these.
One of the things AI does is look across the internet and compile together information about a particular subject. As time goes on, some of that information could well be AI-generated reports. Could we get into a circular downward spiral?
Like copying a picture. If you take a photo that you've received and you print it up, and then you scan that photo, and then you reprint off the scan, and you go in iterations of scanning, printing, you'll end up with a black hole on your piece of paper. AI draws on data that's readily available on the internet to learn and deep learn the new AI tool. And that tool is being learned and taught around data that's got unknown quality and quantity to it. And so we're going to end up averaging down and including a whole range of outliers in there because nobody's actually looking at the underlying credibility and the ground truthiness of the data. AI that's going to keep learning from the current umpteen billions of data points that are out there, unless they actually raise the bar, like the photo scanning, reprinting circuit, we're just going to end up averaging down the effectiveness of the AI.
In the past, you mentioned compounding errors. What's that?
If you compare two OD survey stations and each of them at 70% accurate, and you expect to get a match rate between those two stations, 70% by 70% gives you 49%.
Data collection is one cost item in the project tender. Is there a danger, if it's treated like any other cost item, that it comes under pressure to minimise the cost? Is this a classical area where a small saving in costs may, more significantly, undermine the analysis and value of the project?
If a survey project to be fit for purpose, it needs to be resourced properly. And so it's not just a matter of assigning $1 or a budget to a survey program. It should be built up from what resources are required to collect that data accurately. And particularly when a lot of ad hoc data surveys are to actually calibrate either a model or to calibrate a large data set. That sample data that we're collecting needs to be very, very accurate. And it needs to be up in the mid to high 90% accuracy.
In the old days, we might have taken a 10% sample, say, of number plates in an OD survey. Is that acceptable now?
The sampling rate's not the issue. You could be sampling for 10 or 20 or 50% of the vehicle population. But when you're taking that sample, you want to collect it as accurately as you can. And that's one of the issues with Bluetooth. You don't have a controlled sample with Bluetooth. The sample has to be of a known, guaranteed percentage of the overall vehicle population.
AI has the potential to create some big problems, and it's scared a lot of people, but I guess we can't make it go away. Can we make it helpful?
Nothing I say is anti-AI. What I'm about is to actually ensure that we actually are feeding and learning AI with credible ground truth data. There's no point learning AI on rubbish.
In your series, Heroes of Data, you mentioned Florence Nightingale. Now, about 100 years after her death, one media outlet condemned her because her hospital had a high fatality rate. Who was using the data well?
She wasn't afraid to report the real situation and then build on that. She was transparent and progressive. She also presented it well, developing pie charts. But the key point was that the data was honest and right. She is considered to be the mother of modern nursing, where in fact she was actually an early era data scientist.